already. Vumi, if you could just confirm that that the slide deck is coming through correctly.
Yes, it has, Andy.
Okay, perfect. So
Can
good
you hear
afternoon,
me, Andy?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the second in Cresco's.
So everything is clear.
Sorry, what was that, Vumi?
I was just saying that the slides are clear, Andy.
Okay, perfect, thanks. So welcome everybody to the second webinar in our series. The last one obviously dealing with Eskom tariff issues. And this one I think will be very interesting for many people. We've invited Sterling and Wilson, one of the well-known EPC contractors, to give us a bit of an insight into the way that an EPC contractor looks at the risks involved in undertaking and executing a solar PV project and how that feeds into their pricing. So obviously we normally see EPC contractors providing a fixed turnkey price with certain, I suppose, with certain caveats. And Raj from Sterling and Wilson is going to unpack some of that for us. Just as a recap on what we're talking about here, this is all fitting into our decarbonisation sort of solutions toolkit. So we look at assisting a number of clients on this call to take a decarbonisation journey, and that covers a number of different elements. So within this series of webinars, we'll be looking at trying to unpack specific aspects, and in this instance, we're looking at the solar PV worldview, as I said. We'll also be inviting Sterling and Wilson back again to look at certain aspects of battery energy storage system, also Voltsia as well for another view more from the OEM's perspective. Then we'll also be looking at wind pricing, decarbonisation issues, trying to get to high levels of decarbonisation, potential roles for the long duration storage, green hydrogen, etc., just transition, asset recycling, and repurposing type approaches, as well as then renewable energy certificates and carbon taxation issues, which may be assisted with them. So that's what's coming up. But just as by way of introduction, I mean, for this particular webinar, we're really looking at what makes up the EPC pricing of a typical solar PV project. How does that really, or what are the driving elements behind it? How does that come to sort of current pricing? What are the potential things that we've seen in the last couple of years that have changed pricing? What sort of learnings are there, and what's coming in the future? And how does that impact on local content and local manufacturing capacity? So that's really what we want to discuss. Raj, if I can ask you to then take the screen, and if you could then give us or put your presentation up and give us some background on Sterling and Wilson, and then open up these topics of discussion for us. And just in terms to the audience, in terms of the process we'd like to follow, if you can put any questions in the chat. Raj has indicated that he's happy to try to address questions as they come up, while we're actually talking about a specific topic. So I'll moderate the chat, and when we get some questions coming through on that, I'll break in appropriately to ask Raj to comment back in terms of those questions. So Raj, if you could please share your presentation, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Thanks for introduction as well as indicating what exactly we are. So I will just let me know once the screen is visible.
I can see it.
Yes, it's coming through.
Okay, great. So I am just making my video as well on so that all of you can see that I am a real person and not any kind of hypothetical person. So just to give you some of the introduction information about what exactly. Already Andy, you indicated like we are a EPC organization. And so Sterling Wilson is a EPC. So I will just give you a little bit brief about ourselves, and then we will straight go to some of the questions you might be having. So those are the questions which I normally hear during different webinars. So just to give you like Sterling Wilson is a global EPC and O&M solution provider. We mainly deal into a solar segment. And almost like since last 10, 12 years, we have grown up internationally in a quite good competitive way. And we have built almost more than 11,000 megawatts of solar projects across the world. So we are only into a solar EPC and not in the wind or any other renewable energy solutions provider. So apart from doing EPC, we have almost like more than 6 gigawatt of O&M portfolio as well. And that we are doing as for our own plant as well as a third party O&M solution provider. We have spread across almost 25 countries across the globe. And one of the marvel which we built and which we are always proud to indicate this during our sessions, that we have built 3 years back one of the largest single location projects in Abu Dhabi, which is almost like a 1.2 gigawatt of solar system, which is almost, we can see that it is a 8 kilometer by 8 kilometer. You will see only solar panels, nothing else other than that. So we really feel proud to build such kind of ultra megawatt facilities in some of the region. So having said that, just to give you a little bit small background as well, as indicated, we have commissioned almost more than 8,000 megawatts, and currently around 2.5 megawatt, 2,000 megawatts plus are under construction. Despite the last 1 or 2 really difficult period for most of the EPC players across the world, we still perform really well in terms of financial, with more than 600 million revenue during last financial year. And apart from not just from execution side, but we give or we maintain our credibility in terms of achieving the plant availability as well as a performance ratio guarantee. So such kind of a credible warranties guarantee we give as an EPC contractor. And apart from all these, our project performance as well as track record, we always really feel proud to tell that we are a BE level 2 company. We are based in Cape Town, and currently we have 2 O&M projects under our belt, which is located in the Northern Cape, that is in near to Dar. So these are all about some of the projects, especially when it comes to Africa specific things. Apart from South Africa, which is where we have built constructed 90 megawatts of solar projects 5 years back in 2016-17. Apart from that, we completed projects in Namibia, Zambia, Kenya, and some of the major projects in Egypt and Morocco, because Morocco has almost like a project size of like 300, 200 single location projects. And recently we completed some of the solar plus battery projects in a region like Mali, Niger, Nigeria. So those are the West African countries where we have concluded it. So this is a little bit short about what exactly Sterling Wilson does. So going straight to the some of the questions which normally whenever I meet people, they ask is which are new to solar. So what are the new kind of advancement that is happening in utility scale solar projects? That's one of the question always comes, people ask us. And apart from that, nowadays, since last 1.5 years, people, they started with a new questionnaire that is, what will be your EPC cost? Because earlier it was quite predictable, before I would say pre-COVID level. But since then, when the entire thing got changed, right? This APC cost, it's becoming a really hassle for everyone to understand what are the different components of EPC. So those I will try to answer. And one of the $1 million question that is always been asked is how is module pricing and where it is headed in next 2 to 3 years? Because uh, almost like as you might be aware that around 45 to 50% of the overall project, only this single component, that is module, constitute. So it is important for everyone to understand where the module pricing currently and how it is being headed towards. And coming to the last question, that how the entire South Africa environment is shaping up in terms of readiness for next solar things. And I would thanks to Andy and Cresco team to give me opportunity to present these things. And this is in line with just a 2 days back announcement that has been happened from Mr. President, that they have opened the doors for every IPP players to come and build renewable energy without any cap. So that entire 100 megawatt cap got uplifted to unlimited capacity, as well as they have announced more like a double of this renewable energy capacity for this round 6 projects. So this is really I would say a golden era has started from South Africa specific point of view, especially for renewable energy sector. So let me come to a main point of I think most of you are aware that how the solar works. I will not go into too much details about the solar and all those things, but just to give you a little bit new advancement in terms of solar. People are more like shifting towards a bifacial modules nowadays. Earlier, before 2020, the module size were more like a mono, or it was a start of a bifacial. But most of the industry players, they understood that you can harness the solar energy from both sides, that is from top and bottom. So considering those aspects, this bisolar frames has come into the picture. So this is one of the major advancement happen, and that is being successfully implemented across the world, because your number of apart from just increasing the efficiency, your structure cost, within the same land area, you can now deploy more and more energy. So because of these things, bifacial modules are now becoming a more prominent and required things for utility scale solar projects. Some of the major players in these segments are, which they are also quite easily available in South Africa geography, which is the Longi, J Solar, Trina, Jinko. So these are the more like a tier 1 suppliers from a polycrystalline or silicon cell point of view. Silicon cell as in a module point of view. And when it comes to a thin film, it's more like it has been dominated by First Solar. Again, as you might be aware that once we get the modules right, it's more like a DC capacity we are using, and we require inverter to change from DC to AC, and that's where the inverter plays a major role. And depend on the requirement as well as the type of plant, we normally provide solution for string inverter as well as central inverters. So it mainly specific about that location, site, the country's requirement. So here there are a lot many credible inverter suppliers like SunGrow, Huawei, ABB, SMA. So all these players, they are into this particular inverters supply segment. And with the help of local players, they are also building capacities in South Africa in terms of assembly, in terms of manufacturing. So apart from, I would say inverter, another key component which is coming is more like a structure, and that structure is either fixed type or tracker type. And what I found in last 2 years that some of the players like PVH, STI Norland, Game Change Solar, Next Tracker, they are establishing their facilities in South Africa. They are having tie-ups with local players to build such kind of capacities of a tracker manufacturing over here. And as per my last conversation, like a few weeks back, almost like 60 to 70% of the components of a tracker, they are able to manufacture in South Africa itself, which is really good things from overall development point of view or local development point of view. So when it comes to a more like a foundation apart from the supply, some of the things which are I would like to point out here, foundation for this solar power plants. Some of them are mainly depends on the site conditions, how the geotechnical studies are there, how the soil conditions are there. And based on that, either ramming or pre-drilling or more like a concrete foundation. If there it is a really hard soil, rocky soil, then most of the time concrete solution is provided. If it is a medium kind of soil, then people prefer pre-drilling with the ramming. And if it is a little bit soft soil, then definitely it is the proposed solution is ramming. The reason is like ramming is quite a fast to deploy, where you can immediately put the post and ram that into inside the soil. Because of that, the entire period of entire solar construction period, it drastically gets reduced. So just to indicate you from construction timeline point of view, earlier more like in 2010-11, when the real things started in South Africa from a round one point of view or utility scale power project point of view, the construction timeline for 30 megawatts was around 14-15 months time. That was normal, which we have observed. But nowadays, in last couple of years, what we have observed, like even it is a 100 megawatt projects, because of this advancement in terms of ramming as well as pre-drilling operations, more like a 100 megawatt plant as well, they can able to construct in within the same timeline of 14 to 15 months. So such kind of advancement we have observed in last couple of years. Apart from that, one of the things which we have observed from a cabling point of view, because there are hundreds of kilometers of cables are running inside that solar project plants. And people earlier, they were digging the trenches, burying these entire cables and refilling it. So that sort of things which we have observed earlier. But nowadays, more like a people are going with a cable type of system, that is cap system, where rather than digging the trenches, they prefer to go with overground cabling system across the plant. So this really cut down your cost from cost from making the trenches, refilling it. So all such kind of costing and all those things get reduced because of such kind of advance in cabling. So this is in nutshell about solar. I won't go much deep into how the entire solar system works, because I think everybody understand or knows how this overall things works from solar side, from solar to energy system. So here I would like to go directly into a main portion or second portion. Whenever I meet some of the people who are not much very much relevant in terms of solar or utility solar projects, that is how this entire project costing is going on. And before understanding what is going on, I would like to just indicate what was there 2 to 3 years back, because pre-COVID era, and current era, there is entire paradigm shift has happened, and it's necessary for us to understand what are the components got affected, how those things are now getting changed, and in future, what are the things we need to consider before setting up any solar power plants. So earlier, just to give you before 2020, and I will take more like a South Africa specific point of view. Some of these numbers, right, you will see that cent per watt peak, because this is a more like a nomenclature that has been used by solar industry, that what is the overall project cost? Yes, it is XYZ cent per watt peak. So earlier, more like we observed in 2020, especially from South Africa point of view, the project size was more like a 60 project cost was 65 cents to around 73 cents. And the variation of this 65 to 73 is mainly depends on the size of project, because if it is a more like a 40, 50, 80 megawatt kind of projects, right, then some of the substation related cost get easily absorbed within that project budget. Because whether you are setting up 30 megawatt plant, 10 megawatt plant, or 100 megawatt, you require a similar kind of substation for this entire project. So normally we have observed like 65 to 73. That was the range which we observed in 2020, but mainly it depends on soil condition, site condition. Where if it is a easily rammable site, you can ram the post, then the cost is lesser. But if you have to really go with a concrete and all those things, then definitely because of a higher cost of concrete, we observed the cost is increasing by a couple of cents. The same things which we have observed is with respect to civil. If we have to do a more like a undulation, if there is a undulation land, and if we have to level it, then definitely our cost of civil or preparing the land gets increasing. So based on the site condition, all those things, we earlier observed like 65 to 73 cents. Out of that, in earlier module cost was around 18 to 20 cents. That's era of a really, I would say, golden era for module buyers, because the module cost and all those things were at a really low end, and most of the projects got constructed during that time. So, but over a period of in last 2 years, right, many things got changed. Entire paradigm shift has happened, and supply chain got completely disturbed in last 2 to 2.5 years. And because of this entire disruption of supply chain, right, the costing from metal side, logistic side, all those things got changed. And that is the main thing, because in when it comes to solar is not a rocket science. Anyone who understands some sort of electrical thing, he can bring the panels, he can switch the panels and connect it to the even to our own home systems. So main thing lies how you are entirely managing these large scale projects. So large scale projects is more about the supply chains, managing those supply chains, logistic and all those things. And if that same thing is, if it is getting impacted, right, the entire solar cost and all those things got changed in last few months, few years, I would say. So earlier when we were talking about the range of cost from 65 to 73, now it has been changed to almost like 76 to 82 cents, that sort of things which we are currently seeing in last couple of months. And the major culprit is module. Because module earlier, which we used to get it for 18 to 20 cents, got completely changed to 20. Nowadays, in last a month or two, I would say it is coming to more like between 27 to 29 cents per watt peak. So those are the major things happen. Apart from the module, there are another things which got changed is in from a logistic point of view. Because earlier the logistic was around 1 to 1.5 cents, and now the logistic got completely changed to almost 3 to 4 cents. So there is almost like a change of 3 to 4 fold change in terms of logistic cost. And as I said, the entire thing of solar is all about logistic and supply side. So based on that, the entire scenario got changed. So here nowadays, if you can ask me what will be the solar price, I would say like around again 40 to 50% cost is from module side, which is between 27 to 29, based on the module manufacturer, whether it is tier 1 supplier, tier 2 supplier, what kind of warranties, guarantees they are giving. So based on all those things, the prices varies. But apart from that, your other costs, especially the domestic cost, that is substation, civil, as well as tracker or structure cost, those constitute around 35 to 45%. And remaining is more like I would say 10 to 20% is more like a commercial decision. Why I'm saying commercial decisions is specifically some of the local things when it comes to a local content requirement for all things, right? If we are asking for tracker supply and all those things locally, then the prices of steel and all those things on a little higher side. We'll discuss those things later. But this is overall our observation in last 1-2 months about the overall solar EPC cost bucket point of view. So let's discuss mainly the major culprit, which is about module, because module prices are the one which got changed from 1820 to almost like a 28 kind of a sense. So this paradigm shift, right? When it comes to module pricing, it's necessary to understand what constitute modules. The modules are mainly constituting the silicon, which is again getting entirely into an ingot shape. Those silicon ingots are mainly sliced into a small thin wafers, and cell manufacturer, they put some sort of doping in that wafers, and they produce the solar cells. So this is the overall process which happens from silicon to, I will say, solar panels here. So when it comes to a module, right, module mainly constitute, apart from solar cells, there is a glass, there is aluminum frames, and some sort of, I would say, lamination tube sheets. So those are the things which are mainly constitute in terms of a module. And in last 2 to 3 years, after COVID era, one of the things apart from these things change is the logistic cost, as I explained earlier, because solar is really a delicate things. You need to handle it very carefully. So, and for that you require a large space. And if your logistic cost itself is getting changed or impacted, then everything falls away. And because of that, the module prices has skyrocketed. And the one of the things which we have observed, when it comes to a module pricing, the main thing which I indicated, like silicon pricing, right? Silicon pricing is the major things which are drastically changed in last, I would say 2 years. So earlier, just to give you a little bit brief and background, polysilicon was merely used for semiconductor industry, and those are very high grade polysilicon. Those are used for semiconductors as well as chips. So whatever the Intel and all those things, or laptop, mobile, all you can see, right? This polysilicon, very high grade polysilicon being used in such kind of devices, mainly to create a semiconductor devices. But a lower grade of this polysilicon is going into a manufacturing of solar cells and then solar modules. So over a period of time, initially when the only semiconductor industry was there, the module price, the overall silicon prices was around I would say $40 per kg. But Germany, Europe, they started entire solar programs in their countries, and polysilicon prices went to almost like a more than 400 to 500 kg per per kg. And especially each and every company, they started setting up a polysilicon plant to make the solar modules or solar cells. So because of these drastic changes, the entire industry supply side has become increased, and the entire polysilicon prices, they start falling away. So it has got fall since, like I would say, 2008 to almost 2019. there are drastic reduction in polysilicon prices happen. Almost, I would say, more than 90% of the prices got dropped till 1920 or 2020. So if you look at the last 5 years, right, 2015 to 2019, most of these polysilicon prices, they got reduced from $20 which were in 2014-15, to a single digit numbers of almost 8 kg per dollar. So $8 per kg, that sort of a things which you have observed. And in last, I would say this was a more like a era of pre-COVID. But after pre-COVID, most of the thing got changed, and immediately there was a sudden urge or requirement has come, especially from requirement silicon point of view. And you might be hearing there is a lot of issue in terms of semiconductor. Not many, it's like I would say semiconductor devices and all those things. It is easily available nowadays because of shortage for silicon. And now it gone up again from almost like $8 to almost in last 2 years, it went up to 35, 36. That has created a major big impact on modules, because if you look at right how this entire industry works, when we go and ask module supplier why the prices got changed, they finger point to cell manufacturer. Then cell manufacturer, they finger point it to wafer suppliers. Then wafer suppliers goes to a silicon manufacturer. So everyone is finger pointing to downstream. And if you look at the major culprit is silicon, because almost like a 60 to 70% price of module comes from a silicon. And that's why those are the prices which got changed drastically from last 2 years. So if you ask me my personal view, right, what has happened, after bottoming up this entire silicon prices in 2019-20, now it started moving to a north. And normally any silicon manufacturing plant, even if they have to set up a new plant, it takes around 18 to 24 months time. Even though nowadays it is quite a lucrative, a lot of people are setting up plant, especially in Mongolia and all those regions. But we feel that it will take little bit 1 to 2 years time to come all these plants into a real picture. So my sense is in next 1 or 2 years, these silicon prices will remain same. Yes, there will be little bit decreasing the pricing. The trend will decrease a little bit, but not what we have observed pre-COVID level. So we are expecting that entire reversal will happen by start of 2025 or end of 25. So those are more related to I would say silicon, and as indicated to you, this is directly have impact on the module prices. So almost like in 2017, the module prices, right? It was more like in terms of watt peak. Earlier, it was like a 70 cents per watt peak, which got drastically reduced to almost like a 18 to 20 cents per watt peak in 2020. But in a recent last couple of months, it got changed. Again, it got raised from almost like 18 cents watt peak to nowadays around 27 to 29. So that sort of a range we have seen. And few of the major things, because aluminum prices gone almost like a double aluminum, because frame is the one thing which is required for module. Apart from that, the glass which is being used for this module, that also quite got doubled. But nowadays the glasses and all those prices has come down drastically. But it is not same as of pre-COVID level. So these are the major things has happened. And recently, one of the things which happened, so what is it remain the model pricing the same of 26, 27, or it will come down to more like 18, 20? That is a question mark. And the real things lies like what has changed in last 6 months. The reason why I want to bring this into your notice, because earlier it was more like a buyer's market, where each and every government, they were coming out with a program. Like South Africa government, they were having round 1, round 2, until around 5 projects. Where government saying that, yes, these are for this particular year, we want to deploy 1 gigawatt, 2 gigawatt kind of a solar portfolio. But in recent time, after this Russia and Ukraine war, the things got changed, especially thing got changed from Europe. Because earlier, Russia, as you might be aware, Russia was a major gas supplier to European countries or rest of the world. And everyone want more like their own energy. They want to more like energy security. And one of the things which no one can take away from you is wind energy and solar energy. These are the two energies, even wherever you are in the world, no one can take away from you. They can take away gas, they can take away oil, but these two renewable energy, they can't take away. So most of the European nations, they are thinking to just go for energy security. So earlier their agenda was to go green, go more like a less carbon production. So such kind of talks they were doing it. But now they really feel that instead of this just a verbal discussion, let's really go and be ourselves more like energy secure nation. And for that, in last literally 6-7 months, right, the thing got changed from a deployment point of view. So earlier, last year, European nation, they were used to deploy like a year on year 27 gigawatts of solar. But drastically, they have changed their aim from 27 gigawatts to almost like a 45 gigawatts from this year onwards, or going forward. The same thing happened for China as well. Last year, their deployment of solar was 50 gigawatt, but now they have changed it to almost 70 gigawatt. So what it reflects in terms of pricing? Because there is a certain supply, because supply is only in terms of whatever you are producing from policy point of view. But now your demand got increased. And because of this entire demand supply gap, the entire module pricing has increased. And for next 2 years, because of their high demand from Europe, high demand from within the China, we don't foresee that module prices will come down to more like a 18 or 20 cents or pre-COVID level, at least for next 2 to 3 years, because everyone want to secure themselves. Even today, we are doing this entire session is just how we can deploy from private project point of view, how we can be an energy secure company rather than, so one is the nation and another thing is from company point of view, how I can deploy solar and make sure that at least 50 megawatt, 100 megawatt kind of energy I can produce it from solar and be secure myself. So such kind of things has happened in last 6 to 8 months. Same thing has happened apart from module. Same thing has happened from logistic. Earlier, it was more like a logistic prices from a container point of view. We were able to see that one container was costing around $2,500 from China to, I would say, South Africa. But nowadays, if you look at those same container, it is charging almost like around $8,000. And you add some of the other costs like port handling charges, then some of the charges related to agencies and all the custom clearance and all those things. So there is almost like a 5 to 7x jump we have observed in last 2.5 years. So earlier, whatever happened, like a $2,000 to $2,500 per container, it almost jumped to like a $12,000, and now it is getting settled to anywhere between 7 to 8,000. That's what we have. So we expect, if you ask me, my view, based on the last, I would say, few years experience, the pricing for logistic may get settled between around 4,500 to 5,000 in next 6 to 8 months, and it will remain constant over there for a significant duration. But whether it will go really down to the same level, only the oil prices and all those things will tell. But I don't foresee such kind of things will happen, at least on an immediately 2-3 year basis. because of the entire disruption in supply chain. Another factor which got impacted on solar is the metal pricing, because for any solar project, right, you require like hundreds of kilometers of cables. And the copper prices that got changed almost from $6,000 per ton to it went up to almost like 1,200. It got doubled. Yes, in last couple of months now it has come down again a little bit, but it is again to us not to the significant level. So what we have observed, like or what I can feel, that these prices will remain stable in for next 2-3 years, and it will start again going upside. So instead of going down, because all these metal industry, right, they requires a good amount of human capital, and human capital, the wages as well as the salaries and all those things, they don't go normally below a certain level. It will remain constant for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but normally they don't go on a negative side. So because of those, and those have directly relations with metal pricing. So considering those aspects, we feel that now metal pricing has come a little bit at a lower level, but it will remain in a certain band, price band, for next 1 or 2 years, and then it will go start moving upward. So these are the things which I have observed from a metal pricing point of view. And the metal has directly impact on tracker or structure, because earlier we used to see tracker prices around in 2020 around $7 across the world. I am talking about the across the world. But now the same tracker price is gone almost like up to, I would say, 9 cents per watt peak. So such kind of things, almost like 20 to 25% jump we have observed. But when it comes to a local trackers, that is from South Africa point of view, earlier it was on a higher end, and now also it was a higher end, because everyone aware that there is only one steel manufacturer in the country, and most of these steel prices are almost like adjusted based on the international prices plus custom duties and all those things. So those are always been kept at a certain level, so that no other outsider company come and supply the steel over here. So this is more like, I would say, fabricated pricing happen. But in that scenario, earlier the tracker prices was more like around 8 cents, but it has gone almost to 11.5 to 11 cents in last a month or two. That's the observation we have. That's my observation in last few months. So these are the couple of things from a from supply point side. Apart from that, as you might be aware, we have few module suppliers in the country, that is Seraphim, Art Solar. They have current capacity of around 500 to 600 megawatt, and they are planning to increase this capacity to almost 1,500 to 2,000 in next 1.5 to 2 years time. The same things, we have really good tracker supplier, that is PVH Hardware, Game Change Solar, STI Norder, and they have made very good tie-ups with local manufacturing firms in last few months. And they are able to supply almost 2 to 2.5 gigawatts of structures locally in South Africa. Same thing for inverters. We have ABB, Huawei, Sungrow. They have tie-ups with switchgear manufacturers as well as transformer manufacturers locally, who can supply the things. It's like a South Africa made inverter skid systems. And same applies for the cable. Aberder as well as CBI Electrical, they have quite significant capacities, almost like a 2 gigawatts of capacity they can supply for the South Africa projects in a year's time span. When it comes to civil capabilities as well as mechanical and electrical installation, we have observed like there are many small companies who has built almost like more than 2 gigawatts of solar installation in this country, and they have come to a really good up to a good level from an international standard point of view. The good thing about it is like most of them are using local labors, which helps from a community development point of view, as well as they are helping from a ED/SCD development point of view, because local transportation, security, concrete supply, all those things comes from a community development side. So these are the major things which we have observed in last year, it's like in last few years from local development point of view. My view about the overall solar projects, if you ask me at the end, I would say that overall module supply prices and all those things will remain in a similar levels. The local module manufacturing, it will take another 2 years to come to a really higher capacity level. The steel prices, until unless another 2 or 3 steel manufacturers come in the country, and that's what I am hearing. There is a second steel manufacturer is entering into the company, which is really good for everyone. That will bring down little bit steel prices to a reasonable level. And anyhow, from overall project point of view, I would say there might be a little bit decline of 4 to 5% from overall project cost point of view in next 2 years, but you won't see a significant decline in the prices like pre-COVID level. So I will just stop myself from this entire session, and I would like to really know if there are any questions, queries from your end. So that I can answer those in next 15-20 minutes time.
Thanks, Raj. Thanks very much for a very interesting presentation there. We haven't had any specific questions for you to answer in the chat so far, but please, everybody in the audience, please feel free to add questions in the chat. I suppose just from my perspective, Raj, if I understand correctly, I mean, there's been supply side constraints, particularly on the silicon, and you've observed that globally there's a number of projects being undertaken to resolve those challenges. So while the supply side constraint is being addressed on the silicon, and there's obviously some level of stabilization on the logistics, there's also been disruption from the demand side, from what I understand. Do you feel that the current pricing overall within a range is probably going to stay static, maybe within, sort of 10% on modules? Is it likely to stay more or less static for the next 2 years, or do you see major swings happening?
So, as you rightly said, right, if you look at in last 2 years or 1.5 to 2 years, not many renewable energy projects got materialized within country and across the globe, both the things, because of the COVID scenario and all those things. Most of the projects were on a standstill mode, and each and everyone requires energy, because that is the major requirement for all of us. So as this project got stalled, now there is a sudden requirement to deploy all such kind of project. So there is a huge flood in terms of demand, that everyone want to go and put up the plant and get themselves secure from energy side. So because of that, there is a now natural demand is coming. On top of that, there is always limited supply, because new manufacturing capacities require around 18 to 24 months to come online. So because of this entire demand supply things, right, what we have observed, that it will remain within like 8 to 10% variation, seasonal variation, I would say, all these module process, and then it will start going to a different direction. So why I'm saying different direction, it may happen after 2025. There is a sudden huge number of polysilicon suppliers are coming in the market, and they will start producing a good number of quantities. Because of that, the prices will come down after 3 years, or it will go up because everyone want to secure themselves from energy side. So I would say at least for next 3 years, the prices will remain at the similar level what we have observed now.
Thanks, Raj. We've got a very good question from Mark Janik, asking, where is the risk money for an EPC, especially with a REAP project? But then how can an industrial project reduce that risk money? And does the certainty of an industrial project, for instance, regarding the financial close date, does that equate to a significant advantage? If you could possibly respond to Mark's questions there.
Yeah, that's a really good questions. In fact, if you look at how this REAP process happens, because there is one entity called government, there is another off-taker who is buying energy is ESCOM, and the third entity is that independent power producer. Okay, so independent power producer is selling energy to ESCOM and they are paying money to IPPs, and this entire process is being managed by government, and government always has their own pace of moving. So if you look at since last few years, right, you take it some of the risk mitigation project, round 5 projects, even earlier projects, we have always observed that even though government has certain aspiration, because of their own constraint and all those things, the timeline always getting elapsed. So for example, as an IPP, right, if I am an independent power producer, I am saying that yes, I will set up a plant in 2024 or 23, and I will pay X amount of rand per unit. And if my project is getting delayed for or signing the PPA, signing the document, all those things getting delayed by more than a 1 year, 1.5 year, the prices won't remain the same from a supply. But I'm committing to certain things to government. So I'm just fixing my only one level, but I am not fixing my costings. And those costing are literally variable for next 1.5 years. And that creating a large risk for IPPs when it comes to a REAP program. But when it comes to a private project, right, private entities, they want energy. Let's consider like minings and all those things, because they're for them, right, to continuation of that mining operation is most important things. And for that, you require energy, and they do not want any kind of a disruption in energy supply. So for them, it's better to just go and tie up with IPP. IPP will say, yes, I have investor, I have money with me. I will go set up my plant. Please pay us so and so amount of per unit charges. So this helps for IPPs to secure that project immediately. They can go back to investors, lenders, indicating this is 100 megawatt, 250 megawatt, or 10 megawatt even plant, and they can show this feasibility study. And based on that, lenders gets comfort because they know that this project will get started in next 6 months, at least from construction point of view, and entire project will get completed in 1.5 year time. But when it comes to a REAP program, it will take almost 2 years, 3 years to get this entire online. So there is a huge risk from pricing point of view. So I hope it's like you understand the difference between these two things.
Thanks, Raj. I think that's a good answer. Mark, please add into the chat if there's anything you want to add to your questions there. We've also had a question from Robert Grant asking about the impact on global inflation and interest rates, which obviously have been going up recently. Presumably that's going to impact on the underlying cost of the modules.
Yeah, so it's another things when it comes to interest rate, right? Yes, the investor, if you look at, right, most of these investors, especially coming to emerging market, so emerging market like South Africa or African countries, they expect that at least if there are certain interests which they are getting in US and Europe or other countries, they should get at least a 1%, 2% more interest in other countries, and that's where they are taking risk. So yes, you will, as per your things, you are absolutely right. There is interest rate is getting increased, but there are investors that they know or they are aware this interest rate will remain little bit on a higher end for next 5 to 6 months time. After that, it will again come back to a normalcy. And if you look at the reason why it's like a US Fed and although each and every government is increasing interest rate, is to just combat inflation. Once the inflation come back, again they will normalize this entire interest rate. And here the project which we are talking about is almost for a 20 years or 25 years, because that is what the normal life of solar projects. So over a normal period of like 20 years, this 6 months or 1 year period is really small, and that's what we're. So despite those things, I hope that like there are many investors who are willing to put the money for such kind of private projects. And the another question in that, in terms of module prices, again, the module prices is more, I would say, related to a supply chain, the polysilicon, rather than just an interest rate.
Okay, thanks. That's interesting to understand that you think it's much more supply chain than financing costs behind the module pricing. Then from Bertie Strader, he makes the comment that bid window 5 projects were bid with a certain view on module pricing. However, between the bid date and the lack of financial close for some of these, the prices turned in a different direction. And how can that, or can that be potentially clawed back? What can we do, or what can you do as EPCs potentially to assist to try and get those projects over the line? If I interpret the question correctly.
Yeah. Now this is another big thing happened from round 5 to now, because some of the pricing which IPPs committed are really low. And being a EPC player, right? If someone asks me whether I can go and bid for this project, definitely we will go and bid for the project. But whether we will get those tariff which has been indicated or committed last year, that's a really big question mark, because the tariff which went during round 5 and what the prices which we are seeing, we don't foresee any kind of alignment over there, at least not in next 1-2 years. Yeah, if people say, and government also allows that these projects will get built after 3 years, 4 years down the line, maybe that is one of the things. But in that scenario, your module price may come down, but your labor cost, your material prices, your steel cost, aluminum, copper, all those will go up. So at the end, I don't foresee, if you ask me my view, I don't foresee some of the projects of round 5 will come to a realization, or they will see a light at the end of the day.
Thanks, Raj. I think probably many of the audience are in agreement. Then also from Mark Janik, so he's asking, is module price and the potential escalation there the largest factor in an EPC's risk money? Is that really where most of your risk sits?
Yeah, absolutely right. So most of this, what we have observed, this is a learning curve, I would say. I would like to share these things from EPC point of view, and private companies like you, that you should implement such kind of things. That's my one of the learning from last few months or last 1 year. So normally what happens, like if as a private entity you passing this entire risk to a EPC contractor like us, right? Then what we will do? Okay, now there is a let's suppose there is a module price is 30 cents. So I know that for next 2 years there is a 10% variation. So rather than if I want to commit a fixed price to you from a day 0, I will just indicate you 33 cents and send it to your proposal. And if something happens, then in that case, my risk, and if the pricing goes down, then it's more like your risk, the project, like company's risk. Under such scenario, right, both are having risk, because we want to keep buffer, and your pricing is getting increased, the project overall cost. So we what suggest, rather than fixing the module at this point of time, apart from module, let's keep rest of the BOS, other component price fixed at the time of tender submission. The module, always you keep it open, and when we are doing financial closure, because once you do the financial closure, right, within a month or two, you start the construction. So overall pricing module risk gets really minimized. And at the time of financial closure, you know, this is the module price. You suggest this to your EPC contractor, have a tie-up with them, so that within that certain price band, you can finalize those risks. So risk from your end and risk from a EPC side, both gets minimized. So project cost will not go to a very high level. And as well as from EPC side, we will also ensure that the project gets completed within time, within cost, all those things.
Great, thanks, Raj. To the audience, we have run out of the allocated time. Raj, we don't have any further questions yet. Would you have time to take any more questions if there are any? Just bearing in mind, we will distribute this presentation to all the invitees. And Raj, I believe your contact details are at the end of the presentation, if anybody wants to engage directly with you on a project or any further questions. So audience, if there's no further questions, or if there are any further questions, now is the time to ask them. Otherwise, we will be distributing this, and you'll have Raj's details in order to engage with him further. It seems like
very much, Andy.
It seems like there's nothing further for now. So Raj, thank you very much. I just would like to thank you on behalf of everybody for a very interesting and informative presentation. And yes, so we will distribute this. And for everybody who would like a copy, we'll also have the recording available. If you're not able to get it, please do get in touch with our admin email address that sent out this invitation, and we'll arrange to get you a copy of the recording. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day. And once again, thank you very much, Raj, for such an interesting presentation.
Thank you, Andy, for the interview. And it's really good to understand this, all the audience, and really good questions has been asked by audience. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, and have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.